Susan and her husband had a picture-perfect marriage. However, after coming home early one day to uncover that her husband had been deceiving her, she decided to do the unimaginable. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like and share this video with your friends. It might brighten their day and inspire them to do good. Also keep watching because an important lesson awaits at the end of the video. Susan and Matt were happily married and living the white picket-fenced suburban life they had always dreamed of. They were both engineers and had fallen in love at university. Susan had known that Matt would be the man he married after they first met at one of the tutorial classes. Susan was shy and had enrolled in the class late, so on the first day, she struggled to find a seat as her peers worked on their group practicals. Susan wandered around the room aimlessly, trying to find a kind face, but was only met with the cold shoulders of the preoccupied students. As her anxiety was beginning to get to her, she heard a voice she would have the pleasure of calling home. "Hi there. You could come join us if you'd like," Matt said with the warmest smile. At that moment, as she stared into his kind eyes, Susan found a comfort she never had quite thought existed. From that day, Matt and Susan would spend countless hours together talking about everything. They only dated in their final year, but they were engaged by the time they had graduated. Years later, they were happily married and hoping to start trying for children. Susan worked long hours, so she would always come back home later than her husband. One day, she came home earlier than usual after her meetings for the day were canceled. Having had a long week, Susan was utterly exhausted, so she went to bed the moment she got home. Matt arrived almost an hour later. Susan woke up, hearing him come into the driveway. Susan was excited to get a little extra time with her husband. She loved her job, but hated the time it took away from her and Matt, especially now that they were trying to expand their family. As she was about to head downstairs to greet him, she heard words that shook her world and stopped her dead in her tracks. "Hello, honey. I just got home. I'll call you a little later. Love you," Matt said. Susan began to well up in complete disbelief. She had never suspected her husband of cheating, but what she had just heard made it clear as daylight. Matt was having an affair. She decided not to overreact or make her discovery known just yet. As Matt walked up the stairs, Susan climbed out the bedroom window and down the wide gutter chute. She had taken a taxi to work that day, so she didn't have to worry about him seeing her car. Susan ran to her friend and neighbor, Lisa's, house. She knocked on the door profusely, her every breath becoming heavier as she started to have a panic attack. A concerned Lisa finally opened the door and ushered her friend in. Once Susan had calmed down, she explained to Lisa what had transpired. "So, you're sure there's another woman?" Lisa asked, handing a shaken-up Susan a cup of coffee. "I'm positive. There's no misinterpreting what I saw. Also, I know my husband. It's not so much what he said, but how he said it. There's definitely another woman," Susan explained. "So what are you going to do? Are you going to leave him?" Lisa asked. "Oh yes, I'm definitely leaving him. But first, I need to teach him a lesson," Susan said, determined. So, from that day forward, Susan began putting her revenge plan in motion. Susan started looking around for business opportunities she could invest in. She finally came across a salon franchise she was interested in. Now all she needed to do was convince Matt to invest their savings in the business in order for her plan to work. Matt was hesitant at first, but Susan was eventually able to twist his arm. "Trust me, Matt. We can make a killing off this. Have I ever let you down before?" Susan asked with puppy dog eyes. "I don't know, my love. I trust you with our finances. I trust you. I really do. But all of our savings? Don't you think that's too big of a risk?" Matt said, concerned. "Matt, we trust each other, right?" Susan asked. "Yeah, sure," Matt responded casually. "We trust each other wholeheartedly? Like we said in our vows?" Susan asked again with a piercing glare. "Yes, honey, like in our vows," Matt replied, slightly unnerved by Susan's intensity. "All right, good. I'll send you some of the data so you can look at it further," Susan concluded with a feigned smile. From then on, Susan continued to pull funds from their savings and even Matt's hidden accounts. She even persuaded him to sell his car for the business offer. At this point, Matt was convinced that Susan was onto something, and this was the move that could possibly change their lives. He had reviewed the business proposal and other documents several times, and his certainty grew with each study. The day came when Matt and Susan were set to finally meet with the franchise owner. At this point, Susan and Matt had put in all their money. This was the day they would sign the contract and begin their new and lucrative business venture. Matt, I know you're having an affair, so I got myself a little departing package. This franchise is going to do great, but the only thing you'll be signing is divorce papers. As Matt arrived at the restaurant where they would be meeting the franchise owner, he was shocked to see Susan already there, shaking a man's hand before he departed. "Hi, honey. You arrived early, I see. Who was that man?" Matt asked, confused. "That was the franchise owner," Susan replied casually. "Oh, is he coming back? And when do we sign for our new company?" asked Matt. "I've already signed up for my new company," Susan said, grabbing her handbag. I don't understand. Our meeting doesn't start until another 10 minutes, Matt nervously explained, trying to wrap his head around what was happening. "Matt, I know you're having an affair, so I got myself a little departing package. This franchise is going to do great, but the only thing you'll be signing is divorce papers," Susan said smugly. "Susan, listen. I'm sorry about the affair, or whatever it is you think I did, but I put all my money into this. I have nothing, Susan. Nothing," Matt said in frustration. "That's not my problem anymore. Goodbye, Matt," Susan retorted, leaving the restaurant. "Susan, Susan," Matt yelled, alarming the customers as Susan nonchalantly sauntered out of the restaurant.